And on the phone with us this morning, Dave, we have Amanda McKinney, District 3 candidate for the Yakima County Commission. And good morning, Amanda.
Good morning. I think it's District 1.
Is it District? Okay, well, we'll get it. We'll get it right.
So.
We'll get it right.
So.
You would know, not us. Good. Well, regardless, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lance.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for office.
Well, I'm really pleased to be able to have a chance to finally be on the show. I've been listening frequently for the last several months and been eager to have the opportunity to get on, so I appreciate the invitation this morning. I absolutely wanted to get into the race for county commissioner because I perceived that we really had a lack of direct communication and transparency, and that stems from the fact that commissioners meet on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m., and very few people have time to take the time to go and do that. And although those meetings are recorded, they're kind of buried on White Pack, and we have something called a consent agenda. And the more I poked around and prodded, I could see that you would have to have actually been in a previous meeting behind closed doors to have understood the discussions that went behind making decisions. So that needs to change, and that's one main reason. We need new energy. We need new ideas, and a lot of the poor customer service that we have come to discover, some of us, if you're in the planning and permitting and developing, it's something that needs to be overhauled, and I think it's an ideological issue that we can address. And I come from the red tape bureaucracy of the lending world, and if I can work with my counterparts in the industry to make people have an opportunity to purchase a home, and especially in the environment right now where it's so busy with high volume, and still be happy and smiling on the other end, then that's what we need. It's customer service. And I think the third thing is public safety. Yakima's got, at times, we're down on ourselves for brand image, and I think we need a champion to really shout from the rooftops why Yakima County is an incredible place. I know that for me, I've got close-knit ties to the law enforcement community. My dad is a retired state police officer and federally licensed firearms dealer. So I was raised right, and I understand, to respect the laws of our nation. And we need to be in lockstep with our sheriff and our deputies and really call for more aid from our federal and state counterparts to really combat the crime from gangs that come through here in the drug corridor and with the violence that we've experienced down on the nation that comes into Yakima County. So I think those are the three main issues that really made me want to jump in.
Well, let me ask you this. First of all, good morning. Long time no
see. Good morning, Dave.
Long time no see. Yeah. It's quite a shakeup now with the passing of Norm Childress and the retirement of Mike Leda. So clearly we've got and we'll get some new ideas and new approaches as all of that goes forward. I kind of am, and here's why. Because I think so highly of you, and I appreciate all of what I've come to know about your focus, your professionalism, from your times on our program, how in command of the material you are, and all of that. I have just high regards for you in all of those areas. And so now here you are thinking about stepping into a whole nother area. And as it's been described by me from Ron Anderson when he first got on the commission, was it's like drinking through a fire hose. Yeah. So how much time have you had to devote to this? What's your prep been like? Because obviously you were interested in this position from a year ago. So what have you done with the last year in terms of prepping for this moment?
Sure. Well, for leading up for that appointment process I went through, which I think 11 other candidates are going through a much quicker phase, that there was a lot of meetings. Going to the commissioners' meetings, I actually was appointed to the planning committee task force for the county that went on for about 7 or 8 months. And so attending meetings and making sure that I was up on the issues, more so than perhaps we would all be as lay people.
Sure.
But as far as prep, I've been a resident of Yakima County and a business owner and someone who conducts business frequently with the county on a daily basis. So I've got all the experience I need to be able to perceive and hear from people who are my friends and neighbors.
Did we lose her? Did we lose you? Dang.
I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay.
You're
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your audio dropped out there, and it sounded like we got cut off. All right. So let's
So I don't know where it cut out.
it
But
just
I would
said
say
hearing from your friends and neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and constituents as far as clients, people in the community. I've been volunteering in Yakima County through Rotary for 18 years. I've seen all the good work that happened in our nonprofit areas and through business, and I've got firsthand experience of dealing with the county on a daily basis. And there really are. I think the idea that you have to have already been an elected official to understand the job is perhaps why we have such an issue. And I would say that drinking from a fire hose, I did that at 28 when I opened my own mortgage company. And if you want to talk about red tape and bureaucracy, you can think of words like VA and USDA and FHA and all the acronyms that I deal with. And when you're talking about financing, especially during COVID, when we have people who are suffering income losses and various or shutdowns and trying to take advantage of low interest rates to be able to change their financial outcome, there is nothing that anyone can't do without putting their nose to the grindstone and making sure they understand the issues. But the idea that I would need to be trained is a silly one. It makes me ponder. In the business world, which I lead my life, it's fast paced. It's full of red tape and bureaucracy, and I'm proud to see that my clients come out on the other side feeling empowered and educated, ready to share the news of how they got through the process, and they're happy. And that's the whole point. We want people to have a good experience with county government, just like they do with private business, and that's why I'm here.
Well, full disclosure, we have had happy outcomes with you, so I can certainly back up what you're saying there and attest to that. What about your current job? What are you doing now, and will that go by the boards then if you become the commissioner?
Yeah, so I have committed that this county commissioner job should be full-time, and I think there have been times in the past where it wasn't, and they did move that to a full-time job for a reason. We do need to have advocates and champions on the county commissioners board who are working. I can tell you, for me during COVID, there's a 16-hour day is something that's just normal, and having 2 kids at home on top of it, and running a campaign, there's a lot that I can do with the energy that I've got. Because I am passionate about doing this, just like I've been passionate about my business. But I think that it's something that we've got to have something different and more energy and openness on the county commissioners board, and Yakima's ready for it. I think we're ready for it, and that was proven out through the process of the primaries. I put my name in there, even though I knew that there was a long shot for getting the appointment because I'm not a party insider. And everyone came out and voted in the primary. And in District 1, 66% of the people who voted in District 1 said, yeah, we need something different than what's already there, something different than what the party appointed. And that's a big deal.
And you're right. It is just, you know what I did with District 1 and District 3? District 3 candidates meeting tonight at the Sundome, and I got that mixed up, and I apologize when I intrduced you there. That's all right. Anyway, District 1. Look, let's talk COVID, because you mentioned COVID a little bit there. Give us your overview of how you think the county has handled this COVID situation and how you would handle it differently.
Oh, boy. Well, we really, I think, unfortunately, we stayed in our lane. We listened to what Inslee had to say, and we went with it. At no time did we stand up for ourselves as a county, for our demographics, for our population, and say that these metrics don't make sense for us. And I'll cite a prime example. When our ag industry was really just being demonized by Inslee, we decided to sit back, and there was no leadership that said that that's not acceptable or pointed out the fact that our ag industry very, very graciously heeded the advice of CDC and everyone who was saying that there needed to be PPE because we didn't want to have shortages in our hospitals. Our ag industry donated all the PPE that they had to our local hospitals. And that would have been a prime way for us to stand up for ourselves and to say, no, listen, we know what's right, and our people can make smart decisions. And I have really, truly felt that the communication has been not. There has been how many meetings? I think this just came up in the health board meeting last month that, I'm able as anyone to only attend the monthly meeting, which is open to the public. And it was brought up that, the commissioners, who are 3 of the 7 people on the board, have been attending regular meetings. Well, how often did we hear about what's going on in those meetings? And there's a constant drumbeat across the county of confusion and frustration. Who's in charge? And shouldn't we know that? And if we still, after all this time, don't understand as a community how it works and who's in charge and who's making the decision, clearly the communication has not been sufficient.
How would you handle it differently?
Yeah, so I would love the opportunity to be able to take what I've been doing in my campaign right into the office. And that means direct communication to the public through the platforms that they're accustomed to communicating, and that's social media as well as newsletters. And the county commissioner's page is going to have a Facebook site. I think it's been highly successful for the sheriff's department in getting out information. You just mentioned that, thankfully, this young woman who was just found safe, all of those things are happening because of good use of social media. And I think that it's very important that we communicate directly what's happening behind closed doors. And the whole rest assured that we're working hard behind closed doors doesn't mean anything to people when they don't understand what's happening and what's being said. Now, clearly, I don't think everybody wants to know about every meeting. Maybe noxious weeds might not be high on everyone's list, but there are very clear points of interest that the community has, obviously COVID being one of them. And if I met with Inslee, I would not have let him in the back door and in and out the back door. The community would have known about it. We would have had the opportunity to address him, and I would have immediately been able to say, this is exactly what happened in this conversation. And really, that's what the community wants. They understand they can't be present for all the meetings, but they at least want to have an update on what's happening inside those meetings.
Well, we have had an announcement yesterday that we have made some progress. Your reaction to the announcement and what the county faces now?
We had that progress months ago. To the metrics that I have repeatedly called out Inslee and said that these are wrong metrics. These are the metrics that are not appropriate and do not accurately judge the success of our community in dealing with COVID. They favored counties that had smaller demographics, smaller populations, and different demographics. We were 60, in some cases 63, 66% essential. And in Yakima County specifically, our workers were essential in the form of not being able to work from home compared to other counties like King County. And so I think it's very important to acknowledge that. And we were doing all of those things so well so long ago. And it just begs the question, why now? Why now? And is it because ballots are coming out on Friday? Is it because the colder weather is now coming and restaurants have been calling and saying, hey, we are not able to use your outdoor seating and still stay in business? I think it's the community. I think truly we've been dragging on this for 7 months, and that the community as a whole, as a state, is finally chipping away, and that is what we needed to have done months ago. We needed to have vocal pushback from leadership that these metrics didn't fit Yakima County or our neighbors, and that we needed something different. And here we are with a little magic wand, and now we're getting into phase 2, coincidentally right before the ballots are going out.
Interesting. Please tell me you have time till the top of the hour, because we have to take a quick break for news, but we want to come back. There's more stuff to talk to you about, and we really appreciate your time this morning. So our conversation with candidate Amanda McKinney continues. Take a quick break for news. We'll be right back. News Talk 1280 KIT.
And we continue, Dave, our conversation with Amanda McKinney, District 1 candidate for the Yakima County Commission. Just got her take before we left for the news there on the current COVID-19 crisis. And good morning, Amanda.
Good morning again.
Yeah. Well, I will continue right there. Do you believe the county has failed in pushing the governor to open up more for this COVID-19?
Absolutely. I think we focused on following his edicts, and I think we needed to have more pushback and form coalitions with our neighbors sooner, because we just sat back and said, okay, well, if this is the way it's going to be, and I think rather than staying on our lane, that's the opportunity for leadership. That's where you forge your own roads forward and you clear paths and you make things happen. I think we needed to have done a better job of, again, pointing to how the metrics did not fit the narrative of Yakima County. And, we had a lot of resources that were available to us that I think that we didn't acknowledge and we didn't bring forward. I think that the other other issue is that we did not control our health district officer or board. There just really was just such a lack of communication. And truly, that's why, as a campaign, I think, as you know, I made my announcement in January far sooner. And when COVID hit, it was so frustrating as someone who had my kids at home. I'm working at home because I was blessed to still have my job and my husband as well. But we didn't know up for down or what was happening. And who is this person who's making all these decisions? And there was really no communication from the top. I think the commissioners had one press release several months after the shutdown. That's not acceptable. And so I immediately started reaching out to people in the community to do interviews, to get information to people directly. This is what's happening. This is how your businesses and your nonprofits are being impacted. Being able to look around and see what other counties were doing. And a prime example of how Yakima County focused on creating more bureaucracy was our business plans for the phased opening. Other counties saw that businesses were struggling and scared. I saw it from the financial back end of it. But what did we do? We decided that every single business in Yakima County need to create their own unique business plan. And then someone has to look at that. Other counties could see that that wasn't the right way to go about it because you're creating more stress for these businesses who, by the way, don't understand COVID, all these new rules. So other health districts took the time to create standardized templates for business plans that they already approved. And all you had to do was enter your business information and click submit, and it would upload, and you would print it out and hang it on a wall, but not Yakima County. That isn't how we do things in lending. I can tell you right now, we're talking about $14 trillion at least in lending volume that's going to happen this year compared to just $4 trillion last year. That means we have to be efficient. We do not underwrite loans unique to every single household. It doesn't happen. No one would ever get financing because it would take forever. We create guidelines. And that's just one small example of how we focused on the wrong things. We focused on creating all these new, the grants. We had all these applications, more applications. The redundancy is mind-boggling. And I think that we needed to have pushed back on the narrative from Inslee and found ways to make it easier for our businesses and nonprofit organizations to run, not more difficult.
That sounds great, but it's still the governor's call. Do you feel that there was any special animus towards this part of the state from the governor? Do you feel that we were singled out with our surrounding counties for a higher hurdle, a bigger challenge?
Well, I certainly heard Yakima County come out of Inslee's mouth more than others. So absolutely. I think we can all speculate why. And obviously he's got ties to our community. I think for Inslee, it's far more reaching than that. I think that he created these metrics based off bad information and advice and decided to stick with it. And so instead of acknowledging months ago that the metrics he chose were not accurate in being able to reflect how communities like Yakima were successfully dealing with the virus, we were supposed to flatten the curve, not eradicate it from the face of the earth. I can tell you as a Rotarian, we've been working for decades to try to eradicate polio from the world. There's still 3 countries that we have it. It's something that we lost our way, and no one is holding him in check. And I will say, we also have, an out-of-control executive in that stance. Our legislators haven't been allowed to go back, and we should have had an emergency session, and I think that we should have had local leadership demand that our representatives get back over there in Olympia so that our voice was heard.
All right, but that didn't happen. We sued the governor.
No, it did not.
We sued the governor. That didn't happen. I mean, it's one thing to sit here and say what we should have done, but we're still up against Inslee and them having the final say. So I appreciate your spunk and your spirit and what you would have done or would have tried to do. No question about it. I also think that we were up against more than maybe other counties were for whatever the reason. But speaking of counties, the COVID and how we move forward from phase 2 isn't the only thing that the county's going to have to look at. We've got the good folks at One America breathing down the county's neck about, you're trying to get elected and they want to change the election system. What do you know about the proposed changes and where that sits and how might you approach a challenge like that?
Sure. And if you recall, I think you had me on in January after I made my announcement, and this story had just dropped.
Right.
Yeah, and that was back in January. And we were given a deadline of July as a county to respond, and we didn't make a formal response. And again, the responsiveness issue is what gets us in trouble. And I know that, Dave, you're intimately aware of similar lawsuits having served on city council.
Gosh, yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and we those of us who remember, that's not a pleasant thing. As far as my, one of my degrees is political science, so I study government, and I will tell you that, researching, I actually reached out to professors at Central and spoke to them about, what is this ranked choice voting and what would you say, and did my own research, which is just one aspect of one of the things that they were proposing. And, ranked choice is something that it's highly controversial, and it is something that gets pushed on electorates by, maybe let's say more left-leaning groups. And what it ends up doing is in Washington State, we had one county, Pierce County, I believe, is the one who tried it. And it was unsuccessful because voters said it was confusing. And we don't want confusion at the ballot box. And so for me, I think the easiest thing to do would be to at least dismiss the things that we know, that there's no studies or statistics that point to this being a highly demanded aspect of voting that people are clamoring to get. And, there are certain things I think that, they're talking about whether or not someone is disenfranchised. And you mentioned tonight there are 11 candidates who are going to be giving a speech and have been reaching out, trying to talk to the PCOs for the party to make that decision. I know that there are several people on that list of 11, that short list, who come from the Latino community. So I think it's fantastic. So I think that the argument that there's disenfranchising there is a tough one to make. And I would say one more thing. We're talking about making another appointment, and this actually came up in the debate. If anyone was able to watch the debate that the Herald and League of Women Voters had put on last Thursday. I know there's been a lot of talk about, well, we don't want to, have two new commissioners at the same time. And this is, Ron Anderson, as you know, is up for re-election, and he's running unopposed. So every 4 years, we have always had District 1 and District 2 run for re-election together. So this idea that we would have two commissioners as being something deep, dark, scary, I think is nonsensical. And it's designed that way so we can have new ideas.
Yeah, the potential exists every 4 years that we have that situation. So you're right about that. Okay, but what about, let's see, I don't know when the commissioners are expected to make their announcement from the 11 who they choose to work with.
They got to make it by November 15, Dave.
All right. So it's possible then that you win. You get to be in on that decision, right?
No. Well, during the debate, that question was asked, and my opponent indicated that even if they lose the election, they would still make the appointment. They would be involved in the appointment process. So we would have one person who was appointed appointing another.
Well, yeah, that's the way the rules are. How does that strike you as, it kind of smacks of where we are now of should the president appoint somebody to the Supreme Court when he's maybe not going to be there to deal with it. Whoever wins the election is going to be here for the next period of time, should they not be one of the ones that gets to decide who they're working with, I guess is the way it would.
Sure. Well, the president is duly elected, and he's president until the moment that he's not. And that is why we're having Supreme Court, Amy's ACB is going through the process right now, and he has every right to put her through, and they should do so. When it comes to your point about her being in the role right now, and I said this in the debate, absolutely, she's appointed to fill the remaining term of Mike's position for this year, and she has every right to do so legally. But it begs the question in this case, is it the right thing when this was an appointment? So we brought up the primary, we had in the appointment process, these PCOs are going to be meeting tonight, and to kind of put it in perspective, you're talking about 36 people who voted. So you have 36 people who decided that this is someone from the parties decided that they're going to put forward. Does that necessarily, it's not my call. that's going to be a gut check on the side of my opponent to decide whether or not it makes sense that having at that point been appointed by 36 people, losing a primary, losing a general, and still making a decision.
Right.
But to the letter of the law, absolutely. And it's no different than SCOTUS and the president right now. He has every right to do so.
Yeah. Let me ask you about party politics. First of all, do you know what the population is in the unincorporated areas of our county? If you take out all the cities, how many folks are we talking about?
In just district or in the county?
In the county.
Yeah, we're about 240,000. We're going to have about 120,000 votes cast, they think, registered voters.
Okay, so the difference between those votes and the total population, those folks live in the cities and the county is the unincorporated
Yeah, and they're
area?
expecting more votes. I think I met with Charles because that was an issue that had come up quite frequently after the primaries. I don't know about you, but we had even our own family some ballot issues. And there was a lot of confusion about that. So I actually went down and met with Charles and went through the entire process for a couple hours, which, was really interesting to see. And I can tell you, after having met with him, there is no reason why there should be any ballots sitting in a dumpster. And thankfully, we've got a good handle on things in Yakima County. But when you read the national news, it is scary.
Yeah, it is.
A lot different,
but Charles Ross does promote confidence because of how confident he is in his ability to explain the system.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
One last question about politics here. How important should Republican politics be in county government like this? I mean, the city's nonpartisan. Should the county positions be nonpartisan? Do you think politics should play a role?
Well, the system has been set up that way. I think that when you have such a small board of county commissioners, which is very consistent with the area, I think only King County is one that comes to mind that has more. You're having to work in unison as three people to make decisions for an entire county, and obviously that means that you have a population that you're representing as three people who come from all broad spectrums. And I think at this point, I know that we are becoming more and more of us kind of a yarn ball, watching the two parties, kind of go back and forth. And most of us can identify a lot of being, on some issues pretty moderate. I think we have a couple issues that we identify very passionately with one side or the other. But for the most part, we're Americans, and in Yakima County, we want to see a safe Yakima County. We want to see a Yakima County where people can have a business and thrive and create more revenue for our county. We want our kids to feel like they can come back here. And I think if we elect people who have the eye on the prize, which is a safe, vibrant Yakima County, then that person's going to represent all of Yakima County, no matter what they have behind, the D or the R. I'm a proud R.
KIT News time is 7:57, just a couple minutes left, Amanda, and this is the time where we say if you were in an elevator with a bunch of folks and you had a chance to tell them why they should vote for you, what would you tell them? Why should people vote for you?
Well, I got into this organically. I wasn't handpicked. I wasn't appointed. I'm doing this as someone who has strong ties to the community, who saw a need for something different. We need transparency. We need energy. We need someone who's going to help flip the switch and change what it means to be from Yakima County. Our brand image has suffered even more greatly under COVID, and we need a champion. And our kids need to be able to look at that board, and our business owners need to be able to look at that board and feel like that person's going to shake hands with people, and they're going to make things happen. They're going to tell people that you invest in Yakima County, we will give you an amazing return on your investment, and they're going to communicate clearly to me, openly, effectively. I will understand what is happening behind closed doors, and she is making county government work better for me, not because she says it, but because I can feel it by results, and I am all about results, and that's why.
Well said, young lady. Well said. Amanda McKinney, our primary winner and our candidate for Yakima County Commissioner. Election's just a few weeks away. Door to door, we can't really do that. How are you spending your time here in the last bit of campaigning?
Lots of virtual meetings. I know that there's going to be, I've got a coffee meeting scheduled tomorrow virtually for anyone who wants to come. The Central Washington Homebuilders Association and the Yakima Association of Realtors, the government affairs arm, is putting on a coffee. And there's going to be a couple opportunities coming up for people to just do meet and greets and just check out my Facebook page. And I give my cell phone out readily. It's 833-4857. I always answer. That's my job. So if anyone has a question they want to ask directly, give me a call. We can meet for coffee or talk over the phone. That's the job, to be available.
Amanda McKinney, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Best of good luck to you.